My name is Chris Gutierrez. I'm a third degree black belt. I run and own and operate a Condekoma Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I was born and raised on island of Guam and currently living now in Seal Beach, California.
Nice. All right, brother. So like, man, there's a lot of questions I want to ask you because like you're part of like the core starters of Guam, right? Like when I went to Big John's house, right? Big John Calvo. I went to his house when I was a little kid. I saw videotapes of like of ensigns fights, you know what I mean? Like the VCR thing, you know? And I'm like, well, this is crazy, right? And so I just kind of narrowed it down, you know, and I just kind of want to ask, you know, like how was the journey beginning in Guam in the early 2000s? Like how was that? There was really nothing there. No one knew what jujitsu was, you know, and a group of boys just trying to make it big, you know.
Yes. So for me, my journey was a little different. I didn't start jujitsu on Guam really. I left Guam in like 2000. And that's when I began my journey. As soon as I came out to California, I started my jujitsu training out here pretty much but
Okay,
going back and forth, of course, I was always on Guam. Like I wasn't really always in school. I was back and forth. Like, you know how it is, you spend summers and Christmases in Guam when you're in school.
yeah.
So you're only like kind of out here part time. And yeah, I kind of just picked up jujitsu from being out here in the States. So pretty much my journey was I picked up jujitsu because I had a baby on Guam when I was 17 years old. So
Dang.
yeah, so when I moved out to the States, me and all my roommates, we all kind of like had a bunch of people from Guam. We all stayed together. A lot of them were able to like, go out and do stuff, like college kids, normal college stuff. You're going out. But me, I didn't have that opportunity. So jujitsu was kind of like my outlet that kept me like safe and sane. So it's pretty much what I did. So I would take my daughter with me every day to train pretty much.
And so that was like your outlet instead of like going to the clubs and stuff and doing the like college thing. Like you did the father thing, but found a community that would help you. Like if you wanted to train and they'll watch your kid for you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, so that kind of explains, like a lot like what I see from your gym is like family oriented, and I feel like that did that derive from when you were training and then people will like help watch your kid.
Yes. Yes.
So in like those years, right? I didn't even know that, you know what I mean? Like in those years, did you ever imagine that jujitsu would become such a big part of your life story?
Yeah, I think, like, I think for everyone, their journeys are different for jujitsu. For me, it was like, I'm one of those two people, like, when I usually, like, I want to do something, I kind of like keep it in the back of my head for just a little bit, for a little bit longer. So when I first started training and I saw my instructor teaching jujitsu and doing this, and I was like, man, this is a cool job. Like this guy gets to, teach jujitsu, and that's pretty much his life. That's his job. And I was like, I want to do that. But I never really told anyone that's what I kind of wanted to do because I think at that time I was probably doing like insurance, and then I did IT computers. So, but I always tell people like my advice too for a lot of people is like work on your skills that you like, kind of like if you want to be an entrepreneur, work on that while you're working your job too at the same time. So that way it becomes a little bit easier to deal with, so you're working towards a goal. Then eventually when you're able to obtain like you'll come to a crossroads where your business, you grew it to a certain place where you're either going to commit to it full time or you're going to stick to your career. So I just tell people like you can do both, you know what I mean? You just at some point though, you're gonna come to a crossroads where you're gonna have to choose between doing your job or you want to do jujitsu, for your lifestyle.
So what lesson like taught you that still showing up in the way you live and lead is in today? Like what lessons have you learned now, like before and then now that you're actually, you're doing what you love, and the professor that you saw, like you like, I want that, and what are those lessons that you've learned?
Man, so I want to say like the biggest lessons I learned from jujitsu, man, is being, humble. Pretty much just humbling yourself so you're open to everything. Like so when you're humble, I feel like you're open to do more things. Like whether you're open to like try a new sport, try a new hobby, painting. Whether it's surfing, something that outside your comfort zone. I feel like it humbles you enough to go out there and at least give it a try. And I think too, Jiu-jitsu just teaches you not to give up, man. Like, like when I moved out here, I was pretty much just me, my daughter, and my wife, and we were young kids, at the time. Like kids taking care of kids is what I called it because we were 18 and we were parents already, going to
Yeah,
school
no.
full time and work. And, like for me, I'm not going to say like I wasn't like the brightest in school. I wasn't an A student. I wasn't a B student, I wasn't a good student just in grades in general, So I just think I felt like jujitsu taught me a lot. Like when I came out here, I had to go to college, and like I struggled with school, especially when I was young, all the way through high school. I struggled with school. So for me, I was like, man, college, like I could never see myself doing that. And the crazy story is I would tell is that I went to school and one day for high school and all my friends were taking SATs and me and my friends showed up to school and my teacher was like, what are you guys doing here? You're not taking your SATs. And we were like, that's today. So pretty much I even missed taking my SATs to get into college, So when I
Wow.
came here, I had to make a decision, like I need to do this for my family and stuff like that. And, like jujitsu helped me and guide me through that process. I think, like when I failed in school, jujitsu showed it's kind of like tapping out in jujitsu. It's all right. You can keep going, as long as you keep
Yeah.
going, you'll get there, So that's what I think that's the process that it taught me the most. I think I want to say like through failure is when you'll see growth. But I think a lot of people quit when they keep failing. But for me, I see failure as like a learning experience rather than like, oh, I suck. Like it's more like I always thought I laugh about it pretty much. Like it's when I fell, I almost laugh in a sense, like, have fun with it, So now, okay, let me just try this again.
It's crazy you mentioned that because like even me too, like, I've done a lot of big tournaments, and the outcome that I wanted wasn't the outcome that I wanted, like I've lost and I don't know what it is, but I came to a conclusion when I did pans that I'm okay and I'm having fun now. Like I'm enjoying it. And then when I start like when I tell you, brother, when I tell you like I came to the tournament late, right? My flight, we left at midnight. The rental car wasn't on time. Like things weren't going my way, and I got there, I had to just like put on my gi. They called my name. I had to go shake hands and fight. But the moment they called my name and I stepped on those mats and I believed in myself, it's crazy. Like, and I was like, I'm here to have fun. I'm just here to have fun. It just opened up a whole new me. And I was like freaked out because I was like doing so well and everything wasn't going well that morning. My wife was like, how did you pull that off? Like, you just forgot like everything existed and you're not stressed out. I was like, I don't know. I just found peace in myself now. So it's funny you mentioned that, and that's through a lot of struggles, a lot of failures, and now I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying jujitsu now. I'm enjoying competition. I'm enjoying the journey because I have more patience. I'm more
Yes.
patient with myself, and that's like it's crazy how you mentioned that. Let's go shift gears. Like when you became when you started teaching,
Okay.
how was it in your early days of teaching that became like you knew that this is for you on your early days of teaching?
Also, pretty much, I was like, I used to be the kid or the guy that doesn't like crowd. Like, I mean, I don't mind being around crowd of a bunch of boys. I just don't like to be on stage and like, like when you're on a stage or you're doing a speech. Like that was like the worst thing for me, like in school, like doing speeches. So I felt like through jujitsu helped me to get over that. So like, I guess I think I was like a purple belt, and I was training under Mauricio Chingina um, in Anaheim. And one day he was leaving to Brazil and he was like, hey, dude, you're teaching the classes while I'm gone. And I was like, who, me? And I'm like, I'm not teaching because I don't even like being in front of people. You know what I mean? Like more instructing and talking to people. Like I was always like nervous to do that. But he was like, you need to step up and do this. It's like it's part of your jujitsu journey. So I guess one day he went to Brazil and I was able to teach the classes for him for like 2 weeks. And yeah, I guess from there it was like I'm like this is then I I started to believe that this is what I can do this. You know what I mean? Like when your teacher is trusting you to do this and leave you with the academy and let you teach and you're a purple belt only. But back in those days there wasn't a lot of belts either. So I grew up in the days where it was either you're a white belt or a blue belt, and a blue belt was like a black belt in jiu-jitsu almost at that time.
Heck yeah. It was funny when I met when Lewis started training. When I started training with Lewis at UX, he was only a blue belt.
Yes.
I mean, he was the one teaching us kids like the class and stuff. And I went through all the kids belts. Before they started all the gray stripe, white. I don't know. I don't even know the kids belt. But yeah, Lewis was a blue belt. And like I said, you mentioned there's no one, you know what I mean? And I remember when Bear would make like tournaments. It was going to Shory Road Classic. It's crazy because I still have medals from the Shory Roll Classics, you know? And even at that, there was only like few black belts and like there's like 2, 3, which was like Big John Calvo and like Steve Roberto. And then
Yes.
other than that, there was like all blue, purple belts, brown belts, and all your peers, you know, they were still like climbing the ranks. And it was just very hard because like people would you would have to go to tournaments or connection with other people's gym to get like technique wise, right? Like, oh, how did you learn that? You know, or buy the DVDs. You know what I mean? And that to me was like humbling. You know, that's humbling because now I could just go on YouTube and I could just look up whatever I want to look up. You know, and it's humbling to see your peers overcome diversity. You
Yes.
know what I mean? They've diversified themselves through social media now, you know, and I like it. It's cool because I see the growth and they're capitalizing on that and they're sharing their story with the world,
Yes.
which is cool.
Yeah.
What was the biggest step that led you from training where you were at your first gym to building a successful gym in your area in California?
Oh, so pretty much I was with Chingina for a long time, all the way to I want to say like brown belt, four stripe, right, whatever it is. And then eventually the drive became far because he was in Anaheim Hills and I lived in Cerritos. The drive became a little too much, so I started to look for a different kind of school, and that's kind of when I met like. I started training under the checkmat guys, and then just from there, like I trained there from I don't even think that long, probably like 4 or 5 months at that gym, and then I was like, one of my friends was like, "Hey, I think you should start your own gym because you've been training for a long time and like you show up all the time. You're very dedicated. Like you can do this, you know." So I just, ended up talking to my wife one day, and then we just ended up jumping on and starting it and growing it from, I always call it like a grassroots kind of thing, like in Guam, we do a lot of
I like
grass.
it.
So, like always starting everything like, like the grassroots and down. And, of course, like I didn't have any mentors about jujitsu because back then there was not a lot of schools too when I started my gym, right? So my school, we've been open for a while. So it's like just, there was not that many schools. So for me, I had to learn a lot through failure, through running a gym, and running a gym's hard, like it's not just coming in and teaching techniques, right? Because a lot of people can come in and teach techniques and stuff like that. Like that's just one side of the business, So I had to learn a lot through failing and things like that. So that's why like now when I have my guys, like my guys in San Jose, Jeremiah in Honolulu, Mark in San Jose, AOA Academy in El Paso, Texas. Like I always try to help them as much as I can. So I always try to tell them too, like, hey, call me if you guys have any issues. If anything, just call. Cause that way you don't have to make the same mistakes I made. Like it makes business easier, when you have a mentor and someone to follow and like help you, and like for me, jujitsu, that's what it's about. Giving back to people, you know what I mean? Like just like how you say it, what's his name? The guy from Apple, right? When those guys when they died on their bed, like when they asked him, "What did you wish you did?" And these guys are billionaires, and he said, I wish I lived more." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like when you help people, you live. You feel it. It's different. There's no amount of money that you can give someone that can help them. But if you help them like just without the money sense, like through something else, I feel like that's a bigger thing. You know what I mean? Like that changes lives.
Yeah,
You
no,
goes forever.
I totally agree with you on that, man. Like this is why I do this podcast, man. Like my wife one day, like I said, I was sitting on the couch and she was like, you know, you like to hear people's story and you like to like help them out. Like, why don't you just start your own podcast? It was random, like
Yeah.
random, because my wife knows like I'm always on the phone constantly with someone, you know. And they're like, hey, brother, I'm going through this situation. How can I fix this? Like, I don't have the answer to everything, but I know people that I could connect you with to that will know the answer to that, you know, or I can help you and monitor. But I'm very good at like following up, like, hey, how did that situation go? Did it transpire the way you needed to transpire, you know? But I always tell people like through sharing your story and sharing your issues and your struggles, it resonates with other people because they're just doing it in a different way. And it's like jujitsu. It's like jujitsu. You can get into a technique and there's multiple ways to get out of it. There's not just one way. There's multiple ways to skin the cat, you know, and I believe that too, man. And I totally agree with you on that. It's like sharing knowledge and wealth and how you're mentoring like these young business owners, you know, how you're mentoring Maya. It shows because the way you mentor Maya is like the way it shows in his students too. You know, and when I was talking to Maya the other day, like he said, he's kind of mentoring me too now. You know, like he's giving me books to read, and he's making me starting to think more of how to be more methodic in speaking to people and how you treat people. You know, and through conversation, man. And I've never ever thought that like my mind would be more open and exposed because I was just that young village kid that's hard headed that I knew everything, like I knew everything. I don't need your help. And now that now people that I've never really thought of like are actually helping me, grow as a person. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. And I see, like I said, I see your students too, like the respect that your students have is the highest respect through even the combat aspect of jujitsu. Like at Master Worlds last year, every time your student won or something, they didn't celebrate. They just literally took the win, move on to the next. You know what I mean? Coach, what do
Yes.
you think I should do? You're over there telling them, like, hey, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and they're listening. You know what I mean? And that's it. Maya said it best. A performers will always bring in A people, and they're gonna follow you. Like type A people are gonna want to follow you, because that's just who you are and your values. And that's one thing that struck me with you when I had conversations with you at Master Roads, and that was the first time me having a conversation with you.
Yes.
Like Lewis and Elijah would tell me a lot about your school and your gym because they were in California at one point. Lewis was telling me that he'll always come train with you and stuff, and he was telling me how it was back in the day. And when I got to like actually like speak to you and stuff, like I felt I could feel genuine people, and they actually genuinely care about a conversation they're having, and you were really busy that day. You were like, hey, wait, hold on, I got my mat too. I gotta go that way, and you were on it, and that's I was like mind blown. I was like, man, the way you carry yourself, I was watching it, the way you carry yourself, the way you coach, I was just like starstruck. Like this is like you're a top notch coach, but you're a lifelong mentor, and that's the biggest thing. I was like, wow, that's cool. That's something I want to be, and have people look up to me and come to me for advice. When you were building your gym, brother, like how did you vision the kind of culture you wanted to create?
I think we go in stages, man. Like, because when I opened up my gym, there's like most gyms, they usually start off with like only lower belts. When I opened up my gym, I already had a lot of higher belts. Like there was already like 5 brown belts, 3 or 4 purple belts, and like a couple of blue belts. So we already had like that tier of. And I think like when I first started, I think it was more about training hard. And when you first open your school, training hard and at just going hard at each other and just in general, right? Having a tough school and rolling hard as you can, right? And things like that. And I think as the years went by, you just start seeing like the business side too of things that like we're growing, but we're not growing like we should be growing. You know what I mean? Or you're getting stuck in certain things, like so it's like you almost have to like take a step back and be like, why aren't we growing? You know what I mean? Like you always have to ask yourself that question, right? Because it's business, right? You can't just run a business like your hobby. Because jujitsu was a hobby before, right? Like if jujitsu was your hobby before and you show up and you pay like 130 a month and you just train, you're just paying 130. But when it's your business and you have to cover expenses, it's hard, especially if you have a family and you have kids, right? You have to think about that. So I think as the gym went on, I started being like, man, you know what? Like jujitsu is more than just going hard with each other and being like, that tough guy kind of like thing, right? And be going hard. And I was like, you know what? Let's just shift from this hardcore training to, yes, we can have good training still, but be very family oriented at the same time. Be as family oriented as you can, but still have good jujitsu, right? At the same time, right? But which is hard to blend the two, right? Because a lot of schools they're either super competitive or they're just family oriented, right? Or it's just hard to either find like a good medium. Like the best thing for me, I would say, is you find that good medium where your school is kind of good guys, but yet very family oriented at the same time. And I think too, just having people around you who are good and like I think standing on your morals, like just having like a high moral ground, just in general, I think helps your gym in general. Like being like you don't bend for anyone, you don't bend for your friends. You try to stay around positive people. You know what I mean? And I feel that like at my school now, I feel like I don't even need to patrol the gym anymore and see people. I feel like my everyone's already like in line of how the culture is here, and you just get weeded out eventually. Like you'll weed yourself out if you're not a good person or anything like that here. Like I feel like you weed yourself out pretty much if you're not like within that community of trying to be family and those kind of like values. Like if those values are not with you, then you would probably not fit in this gym.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how far I've had my gym where it kind of weeds people out already by itself.
So I talked to one of my boy, man. He lives here in Denver. Young kid, very talented young kid. He had to stop training because he got a new job and he wants to focus more on his job and he needs to save money, right? And I've been there. We all been there, where you have to sacrifice,
Right.
sometimes. And we had a conversation about like, hey, it's okay. I said, I've invited him. I was like, hey, bro, just come over. Let's go barbecue. Let's just hang out. Me and you, like, my wife's out of town, just me and you can hang out, we'll talk. Like I said, you need some guidance. And he was talking about like, man, how do I tell like my professor at my gym? Because he trains at another gym. He's like, how do I tell my professor at my gym like I can't pay because I need to like save money and my rent went up and I need to focus on my job and I'm not gonna be able to make it to train only once or twice. And I said, you stay on business, bro. Like that, you have to communicate that. And
Yeah.
then if they have something else to say, then and they're telling you, oh no, you have to come train and this and that, like they will respect you if they say, you know what, whenever you're ready, come back, or they'll find a way for you to just like pay it forward and contribute to the gym and still train. Right? They'll
Yeah.
figure something out. Like you just gotta have that conversation. So he said, no, I had that conversation, but they kept saying like, no, you should train this and that. Like you're gonna lose a lot of time. Like I was like, brother, you're only 23. You have a lot of time, and I told him that. I said you have to keep your moral compass like right. Don't just be doing people a solid if you know that you're gonna put yourself in a financial bind. And I said this small thing right here is a big lesson in your life. Like what you just said, you have to be able to have your moral compass check and be like, hey, if I'm gonna talk to someone about my personal life, I want the response of support. I want this response of how can I support you? I mean, I even told him, I was like, you could come train at my gym and I'll pay your dues. So that if this is jujitsu is more, I told him jujitsu is more than you just paying. Jujitsu is like mental. This is your therapy. This is your community. So what I'm gonna do is I would rather have you come to my school. I'll pay the membership and you train. And I can see you. It doesn't matter if it's you come once, twice a month, at least I see you. And he was like, "Man, you'll do that for me?" I was like, "Yeah, dude. Like, just come over." You know what I mean? Like, no one should be able to be tossed out because you can't pay. And I said, jujitsu is like I have to constantly like just because I have a black belt, I'm still learning myself, but I have to mentor you still now. Now I gotta help you and guide you, in your difficult times on the mat and off the mat. Off the mat's where it counts because I'll see your personality on the mats. And this guy's cool, super chill kid, man. And he's how Maya inspired me to communicate more and help out someone. I'm helping him out now, open my mind up to bigger things. How has your leadership style changed over the years? And what is the difference like between a skilled coach and being a true leader?
Man, for me, honestly, people are gonna do what they want to do. Like if you haven't came to that conclusion yet in your life, like people are gonna do what they want to do. My job is just for as a jiu-jitsu leader is to provide a safe community for them to train at. Pretty much, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty much my main goal, and to treat everyone, just respect and lead by that. More lead by being a good person every day and stuff like that. I felt like that's more important than any skill that you can get. Just being a good person in general. Because I feel like we need that more. We need more good people. You have people who like I seen it like from like you see people who didn't have anything and then make it and then like their moral compass changed. They went from someone to no money to money and then now they're a totally different person, right? They have no moral compass. They think because they have money now and they do this that they can do whatever they want. And so for me, I just think like keeping that is way more important because I feel like your moral compass and like whatever you do in your life is your how do you say it? It's your resume. Like, I mean, like, it's like me, if I go out and I say, and you ask about Jeremiah and you ask all the peers about Jeremiah, like, hey, how's Jeremiah? You ask like five guys, and based off what they're saying about Jeremiah is what you take it. You know what I mean? So it's almost like it's your resume, right? Your life resume is what you do. If you steal, that's on your resume. You know what I mean? You do bad to someone else, that's on your resume. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people too. I think that front, right? Like they act behind closed doors, like they're all this, and they try to portray who they really are. Like a lot of people, you probably know people like that too, like who
Yeah.
act like they're really good people, but you're like, dude, they're not good people. Like, if you really know the truth, they're not good people, right? So I try to keep myself around people who are good people, like, in general. Like I try not to hang out with people who are trying to do things that are outside of norm of like that's not just good for society or just in general. You know what I mean? So
No,
I just try to do
1,000.
that. And I feel like that keeps me positive. That keeps me going. It's like it's more like what I stand on, your principle. So that way you're not having to bow down to anyone or like, you know what I mean? Like change your concept of anyone. Just be like, this is what I stand on. And if you cross it, then you know what I mean? Then that's, it's on you too. But you know what I mean? Like if you cross that line, then it's like, I pretty much don't want to like associate, which I feel is bad. But for me, I just don't want to associate with anyone who doesn't have a cool moral compass or anything like that. Right. Because I feel like that's cancer sometimes, like it spreads.
And
So
you're not wrong, like I've learned that through serving in the military, you know what I mean? Like people put on the uniform and then they put on a facade, and that's what I teach cuz I teach interperson relationship with my students and the army side. And I teach them, I said, I was coming when I teach this class, I say, how many of you guys have to act a certain way when you put on this uniform? They all raise their hand. And then I'd be like, okay, why? Like, why do you have to do that? Like, if you see me here, and you see me outside, I'm still the same person. No change. Maybe I'm just more blunt outside, but here I'm still the same person. The moment you start changing who you are through environments you put yourself in, you're not your authentic self, and
yes.
people can't trust you. You know what I mean? Like, and they
Uh,
they 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 start conversating. You're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, because leadership, you can always tell yourself you're a leader, but you're not. You're really not a leader. You're just put in a position that someone just put you there, and then you call yourself a leader. No, it doesn't work like that. It's how you are behind closed doors and in front of the spotlight. How you carry yourself. And you just but their mind just goes blown. They're like, whoa, this is something I never really like someone ever said or put words to. I'm like, yeah, man, it is what it is. Like you see all these things rank on my chest, but by the end of the day, it doesn't change who I am. I'm still the same person.
yes.
I'm still gonna help people out and challenge people too to be a better person. What qualities do you believe every great instructor should have?
Man, patience, man. I think patience is like the biggest thing we learn in jujitsu is being patient. Teaching kids teaches you that a lot. For me, the funnest for me teaching, like people are like, a lot of people don't like teaching kids. Like if you know that, like if you ever ask people to teach kids, a lot of people are like, oh, I'll teach the adult class, but I'm not teaching the kids class, right? And you're like, okay. So like for me though, that's the kids class for me is like the best class to teach. Like I enjoy teaching the kids and like seeing them because they're so innocent, right? Watching them to like learn, watching them grow, watching
Yeah.
a kid he couldn't do a push-up, watching a kid cry every day in class to being one of the toughest kids ever, you know what I mean, in the class now. Like his like first year of jujitsu, all he did was cry, and then like now he's like one of the best kids in competition teams. So, like being part of that growth and the journey, I think it's very fulfilling. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
just as a
Yeah.
life, right? Because like us as humans, we need purpose in life, right? So that's why a lot of people like you need to find your purpose, right? Like what's your like, you know what I mean? Like you still have your job of, find a purpose. Like, like my purpose, I felt like I was put here to either help people or like give back, right? Like, you know, so I feel like if you find a purpose, life becomes a little bit easier because like life's hard for everybody, you know what I mean? Just in general. Like people always say like, oh, man, you're doing good, your school's big, like, like they see success, right? But, no one saw like where you started, like I lived in Hawaiian Gardens when I first moved there. One of my students was like, whoa, you lived in Hawaiian Gardens when you're here. I lived in all these different places I had to like live, like, growing up. Cause, we moved here from Guam and it's like when someone tells you like rent's like 1,500 and you're from Guam and it's like rent's 5 to 700 back then, you're like, whoa, this is like, and it's like you have like 5 people from Guam. We're all renting two bedroom apartment and we're all living in like each one has there's like 3 people per room,
Yeah.
and I had my daughter at the same time doing all that. So, it's like it teaches you, just like jujitsu's taught me to like deal with all that. It just in general, I think if I didn't have jujitsu in my life, I wouldn't be where I am in general.
I like that, man. Cause like it's crazy too. Cause Lewis and Elijah like saw me grow up from literally middle school all the way up to adulthood, all the way to where I'm at now. And you know what I mean? He seen me go through breakups, through joining the military, through having a
Yeah.
kid at 19, like he saw it all, but I think one thing that Lewis and Elijah I appreciate about them is that through all the good times they were there, and when like a family member passed away, or when my mom passed away, like they showed up. They always showed up. Like it was never, what I mean. And I'm Lewis's godson, and it's crazy because like a godparent's supposed to be there for their godson, right? And Lewis always he's always there. You know what I mean? And that just shows like big heart and character, but like how you say, like I think it makes him happy to see like a kid evolve into a man, and that's what you see with your kids. You see them grow from dang, just a kids class day one to like, dang, bro, where did you go? You're like taller than me now. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, what the hell? Like, oh, I'm going college. Oh, you're going college now. That's crazy. You're just a little kid yesterday. And that's what I think that's one of the beauty of teaching kids class, but you do have you have to have a lot of patience because that's what I did. I taught kids class and I never knew why Lewis is like, you can't teach the adults, you just teach the kids. I'm like, dude, I don't like teaching the kids, and I was a purple belt. I'm like, "Dude, I just want to do the flashy stuff and that's
Yeah.
it. And he's like, no, you gotta slow down. That's what you gotta do, and I start to realize that he put me there to slow me down, but to understand like if I cannot break down a technique, a basic armbar to a kid, then I cannot teach an adult a basic armbar. Like he literally did that so I can like harden my foundation to teach. And now when I teach, I can break down an armbar. I can break down a triangle. I could break down like I can see moves and break it down like by segments and teach someone. And I'm like, man, if he never really put me or pushed me to the kids class, I wouldn't know how to teach. Because it's an art. Teaching's an
It
art,
is. No, it
you
is,
know?
yeah. It's a skill. It's a skill set, like, you gotta practice it. You gotta be doing it all the time to get better, you know?
Mhm.
So and then, yeah, so I just tell people, I was like, with practice, and then so I tell people, like, that's what I tell all my guys, so, like, if you teach the kids class, you can teach all the classes. Like, I'll trust you to teach more adults class if you're teaching a kids class, you know what I mean? Because you're more aware of safety, right? Like jujitsu, I think a lot of people, they safety, some schools don't, like, safety is, like, not saying, like, the least concern, but I think safety should be a big concern first before anything else, you know what I mean? Like, because jujitsu
100%.
very dangerous. So you need to make sure all the students are in line with each other to trust each other because you're both hurting arms, you're choking each other. So you need to trust your partners, right? That they're not like, if you're getting choked and like, I know I have you like wrapped with one arm and I know you can't tap. I'm not going to keep squeezing. You know what I mean? I would
For
let go,
reals.
right? I'd be like, I got it and I let you go, right? But you just have to be aware, of safety in your gym. I think that's another big thing too.
So, how do you handle the responsibility of shaping both your students on the mat, but off the mat as well?
Man, you know what? I just try to provide like a community, and what happens, I think things come together naturally, almost like, we all lived on Guam. So like I grew up at the community center on Guam my whole life. Granite Heights Community Center. Man, I think I was there like every single day from like, I want to say like fourth grade or fifth grade all the way to my senior year. I was at again the Gannett,
Dang.
like from 6 p.m. all the way to like 10 o'clock to play basketball. And that was like every day. I thought about like we were there, like, so, it kind of kept you out of the trouble, right? So, and then you start seeing like the community, like, being like living on Guam, you're not raised by your parents, you're raised by the community. Like when I
Mhm.
was growing up, I'm not raised like, when I think back about it, I'm like, yeah, my mom and dad did discipline me and stuff, but so did my aunties. So did the neighbor down the street that I really didn't know when you're doing something dumb, check you. You know what I mean? Like you're raised by your community. So I took that and I'm like, you know what? If I can build something like this, business be a lot easier when you're doing something like that. So you're not trying to do everything yourself. So like pretty much your students are helping you too, right? Like they're helping. So when you come into my gym, some people freaked out because when they came into my gym, some black belts like, wow, man, your students, they shake everyone's hand. Like whether the guy was brand new, I noticed that. He's like, dude, he came up to my hand and everyone's being friendly. Like the first time I went to your gym, I was like, this is weird. And I was like, why? And he was like, because dude, everyone's like super friendly at your gym. And it's like, I was like, this is crazy. Like it was almost weird to have people friendly. And and then in my head that made me think, I was like, man, I had this guy who's a black belt and was good. He's been training since he's a kid too. And he's like 28 now, but he's been training since he's like 12, So like to see him say that, it's like he's been through a lot of schools and he's like, man, your school's like the first school where people actually like they come up to you and say hi, they're shaking your hand, they're making you feel welcome. And he goes, I thought that was weird. Like I was like, why is it? And you know what? I've got that from like 20 new students that signed up at my gym. If they
Wow.
train someone else, they would tell me that they're like, it's like I thought it was weird, but like it's real. Like, they say school has a lot of schools will say good vibes and good things. And he goes, but your school is really has the good vibes and like, you know what I mean? Like you feel it, you feel, so I always say like, it's like part of our holiday spirit, right? Or like, on Guam, how we take care of each other. So I just try to really build that more than anything else, man. Like community is like for me a big thing. And like you have guys in here who will come up to me and be like, hey coach, man, I'd like to thank you very much because like me and my wife, we lived in Cyprus for 8 years now, but we've never hung out with anyone. We didn't have any friends. Now we go to birthday parties with all the kids here. Like I hang out with all the dads now. They golf together. Like they do all these activities, and they would never have achieved that without jujitsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought that's for me. That's bigger than being, you know what I mean, like world championship and medals and all these things. I feel like that's more important.
No, I
You know
totally
what I
agree.
mean?
Like that's how Lewis like literally my mannerisms of how I was raised in jujitsu like carried me. I left Guam when I was 24. Every gym I went to, from training in Georgia to California to Indiana, you know what I mean? Like every gym I went to, they freak out because when I go on like if I'm running late, I will wait on the side and I'll wait for the professor to call me in. And then something like, dude, you're a black belt. Why do you wait? Because I don't own the gym. His class already started. I want to be respectful because he's teaching. I don't want to just show up like I'm someone.
Yeah.
When I show up, I do the same thing. Go to the professor, shake his hand. I go to from the highest belt, whoever's there, down to the lowest white belt, shake everyone's hand. You know, and that's how Lewis like always like taught us. It doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna shake everyone's hand, and you're gonna have a good training session. But also to the principle, like Lewis always taught me the principle of going to someone else's gym. When I go to someone else's gym, I would pay their drop-in fee. I said, hey, you're providing me a service. I don't want to take from your mouth. Here's please, thank you for housing me. And a lot of the owners, they freak out because they're like, "Whoa, no, you're a black belt. Like, doesn't mean I'm a black belt, but business is business. Like, you still got to run a business. You still got to feed your mouth. I'm not trying to
Sure.
take from your mouth. That's crazy. We're not doing that. You know what I mean? That's not me." And I carry that on to even like going to cross train, right? When I cross train somewhere, and they're like, "No, do we need you? So just come train." Hey, I would just make an envelope and I'll put like money in it, and I'll just leave it on the counter. I say, hey, can you just give this, like this? I don't know who's gonna take it, but here, this is for you guys. And then I'll leave, and they're like, hey, you paid your why'd you pay this? I was like, this is your monthly fee, and I've been training here for a month for competition prep.
Yeah.
At least, I'm using your water, I'm using your power, I'm using your mat space.
Yes.
Please, here you go. And they freak out because they're like, man, this guy is like, not taking from us. He's actually like, you know what I mean? I'm like, like I said, it is what it is. It's the principle. It's the principle. Like, this is your home. I respect all your students. And when I roll with someone, especially when they're older than me or even they're young, doesn't matter who they are. The first thing I ask them if I don't know them is, do you have any injuries? Is there any specific guard or things that I can't play with you that will injure you? Oh yeah, I got surgery on my shoulder. Cool. I know he's a hobbyist, so I cannot
Yeah.
go hard with him because he pays the bills. He
Yes.
pays the bills, so I'm not even gonna rub him the wrong way. He's
Yeah.
a good dude. You know what I mean? Like I do that. You know what I mean? Because I don't know you, you don't know me, and I want to be safe. I want to be like, hey, like, are you injured anywhere? Oh yeah, I got knee surgery 2 months ago, or like a year ago. Okay, cool. I know not to attack that knee. I won't do knee bars to you. I won't even touch it. Okay, cool. Or if they're older, you know what I mean? Like they're just there for a sweat. I'm not there trying to break them off. I'm trying to make them learn. And a lot of the professors, they watch me. They watch me. They watch that, and then after class, they're like, "Man, you should come back more. Like, don't
Yeah.
even worry about paying. You should come back more because my students like you. My students want to like train with you now. Train with you more." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll stop by." You know, but that's how I was raised, man. And Lewis and Elijah, like that's how any gym we went to, like I'm a reflection. My black belt's a reflection of them.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand. Once you get a black belt and it's tied around your waist, that's for life.
Yes.
And you represent who gave you that belt. Because when someone asks you, "Who's your lineage?" and then you give them your lineage, like, dude, they didn't teach you right. Like, you just they start shaming, like, oh, that's yuck. Like, what's that? Like, so I always tell people you got to be careful how you represent yourself because you're representing someone else too. It's wild. It's wild. Super wild. But brother, last question, for the viewers. If someone is in a dark place and they hit a wall, they've been training for like more than like 5, 6 years, and but they hit a wall and they want to turn away from jujitsu, what is some advice you can give them?
Man, I say like, yeah, take a break. Like, like everyone needs a mental break in their life, like I just don't recommend like someone taking like years off jujitsu, but of course, like, like it happens. People take off, like years and stuff. So like I told me like all my friends that I started training with that they're my black belts now. So that's I mean, people come back still, so I can't say anything bad because I seen people take off. Like where a lot of my friends were all training together and then they all fell off like at purple, brown, and then I ended up giving them their black belts. That's how long they were away from jujitsu,
Wow.
So I just tell people like everyone has their own journey and their own times in life, but just try to find your way back to the mats, man. As much as you can, because you have a community supporting you. Like you understand like how much these guys and your community can support you and get you through some of these tough times, or maybe give you some good advice. If you're, like jujitsu helps with everything. Like there's people who have jobs, or like if you're looking for things, there's a lot of mentors. It's not just your coach here. Like I have doctors here that train with me. I have lawyers here. I have business owners. Also, like you can go out there and talk to all these people to like, get some life, I guess, life advice, because a lot of these people too, they're older too, right? Like a lot of the people who train usually and can afford jujitsu are usually the older people. It's like the 30-year-olds and up, or the 40-year-olds even and up, right? Like those are the people who can afford the jujitsu classes, So yeah, just, like keep an open mind, have fun, dude, enjoy jujitsu. Like, don't try to like use it more as a tool for your everyday life. That's what I tell people. Like, use it for your everyday life. I used it every day. So every time anything bad happened to me, I kept doing jujitsu, and I felt that that's just what helped me got through everything. Like when I was losing in life, I was like, dude, this can only be going on for so long. You know what I mean? Like it's like getting tapped out for the whole year, and you're trying to get your purple belt, whatever it is, but you're still losing. You go through jujitsu, you go for like 6 months, and your game is terrible. Like you're just like straight. Like jujitsu is like one of those things like this, right? It's like you go up, and then you go straight, and then you're here for a long time, and then you get a little bit better, and then it goes like this. It's like
Yeah.
jujitsu is not like straight up. It's more like a little hills you climb, and you get to the next, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like staying with jujitsu, if you can, it's beneficial. You know what I mean? It's because your health, right? At some point, you're going to have to work out. And at some point, you need a stress reliever. And at some point, you need something. And if you can't afford to train, like you said, talk to your coaches. Man, they're more than willing to, like, you can clean mats. There's so much stuff in the gym that can be done that needs something done. You know what I mean? And your
Yeah.
your your teacher can find a way for you to train. No, because he doesn't want to see you leave. I get sad when I see people quit the gym all the time. People are like, "Oh, it doesn't affect you." I'm like, "Yeah, it does affect me, of course." Like I feel bad because every time someone leaves my gym, anyone who leaves my gym, I call them and I say, "Hey, why are you leaving?" Like whether it's not like I don't even try to force them. I just want to know as long as it's not something that I did. That's what bothers me. If it's something that I did, then I want to correct it. You know what I mean?
Totally understand that, man. Like, totally understand. Like I said, like I grew up, me and my brother, poor, dirt poor. Where like we would every time they're lining up, they're like Big John Calvin would be like, "Hey guys, it's time to pay the dues," and we're just that kids are like, "Oh, we gotta go, we gotta go." We just dip up on the back, and it came to a point where Big John like noticed that, and he's like, "Hey, like guys, just come before class. I'll give you guys the key. You guys mop the mats, clean the gym, clean the bathrooms, train. After you train, because we didn't have water or power at my house because it got
Yeah,
cut off because we couldn't afford it. So me and my brother would shower at the gym. You know what I mean? Like clean the mats, clean everything after training, shower at the gym, walk back home.
yeah,
And that right there, like like showed me too that like the power of training and jujitsu and community. And that's why, like, what I mean, I'm like you. I don't like seeing people quit or stopping because of financial burdens. You know what I mean? There are other ways that you can contribute to the community of jujitsu. It doesn't have to be money, but it could be in time. Or some people are like talented, like electricians and stuff. Hey, we need a light right here, or put this drywall up. I'll buy the materials. Like you just utilize
yeah,
your
for
skills.
sure, 100%.
But brother, man, I Man, super thank you, man, for coming on, man. I know you've been very busy back to back tournaments and just very busy in your personal life, and for you to stop by and share your story, I really appreciate it, man.
Okay, thank you, man. Yeah, and thank you for all the stuff that you do. Like just your podcast and everything. And since I met you, cool dude, good guy. I feel your vibes. We vibe together. It's keep up what you're doing, man. And don't let anyone hold you down. Do your thing, man. If you need anything,
Appreciate it.
boys up here. You know, we got your back. So if you need anything, let me know.
Appreciate it.